Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. Today we have West End leading lady Suzie Mathers.
Hi.
We wanted you on it for so long and I'm so happy that we've now got you on our channel because people have been requesting you for ages.
Oh, that's
honestly.
lovely.
So I wanted to kind of just go back to the beginning of your life as such. What people probably don't know is that you're actually from Scotland.
I am.
Yes. And you moved over to Australia. How old were you when you moved over? And do you remember your time living in the UK when you were young?
Yeah, I do actually. I was 6.5, almost 7 when I moved to Australia. So my family, my auntie and uncle were living in Australia and we went on a holiday to visit them when I was 6-ish. We stayed for Christmas. My parents fell in love with Australia and we emigrated 6 months later. So, yeah.
Holiday, you just never came back?
We just kind of never came back. So I am originally from here, which is why I kind of don't feel too bad that I'm coming and stealing some jobs.
And growing up, did you always want to be a performer? Is that something you wanted to do?
Kind of. I always sang, always. For those of you that follow me on Instagram, you would have seen that video that I posted a couple of weeks ago. So I have always sung, but it was never actually a career, something that I wanted to do for a career. When I first graduated from high school, I went to uni and studied law commerce.
Oh wow.
And through my high school years and stuff, I was definitely in choirs and bands, but I wasn't a dancing school girl. I didn't do drama. And it wasn't until I was about 15 or 16 I saw my first Broadway musical and my first musical in the West End. And I went back to Australia and told my mum, I want to do training, I want to figure out how to be in musical theatre, that's it. And then even though I started a different course at uni, after a year I dropped out and went to drama school. So yeah.
What musical was it that you saw?
Hilariously, on Broadway it was Footloose, and on the West End it was a musical called Spend, Spend, Spend.
Okay.
Which was, I think, in the 90s. So yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
So you graduated from uni and then you joined the Melbourne production of Wicked as a swing.
Yes.
And then you left and you became Sophie and Mamma Mia.
Yes.
How was your first experience in the musical theatre world and how was it playing a lead so soon after finishing uni?
Well, for me, I think because once I realised, oh my gosh, musical theatre is what I want to do with my life, I was still kind of coming to terms with what musical theatre is and was a giant fangirl when I was at drama school. I am the epitome of stagey. My iPod shuffles musical theatre. And so even just getting into Wicked for me was dream come true. There's a story, whenever I did a backstage tour at Wicked, especially here in London, I used to tell, when we go past the Flatheads, which a lot of you would recognise from One Short Day, so the big kind of things. So the first time I ever stepped on stage was as a flathead. And I didn't do anything else, nothing else, not the opening, not loathing, not anything, just the one thing. But they let me bow. And in the bows, without a word of a lie, I'm dressed in my kind of opening costume, running down the thing, and the tears were streamed out. I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I've never been more happy in my life because I was on stage. Yeah. So kind of, being in the professional music theatre world was so overwhelming. And I didn't really have any aspirations to be anything more than in the ensemble. So when Sophie came along, I actually did the auditions. I wasn't available. And I did the auditions just to have a go at doing auditions, which I now know is not a thing you should do. But I kind of gave it a go, and every round I just got closer and closer and closer to getting Sophie, and I was like, what the hell, this isn't what I was trying to do. I was just kind of having a bit of fun, and then I had to let Wicked know that I got the role and I had to leave, so that's what happened. So yeah, so it was kind of it wasn't overwhelming as such, because when I started the role, I think Sophie's a really good one to start with.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, and it's something that as someone in your early 20s, fresh-faced and naive a little bit about the world, it's a really good one to start with because you can really access that really easily, and it kind of paved the way for doing things like Glinda.
Exactly. And then after you did all that, you went back to Wicked.
I did,
and you were in ensemble for a bit and you were cover Glinda.
Yes.
And then you took over as Glinda.
Yes.
And can you remember your very, very first show as lead? You just taken over full time and you go out in the bubble?
From full time, it was a bumpy ride because I don't know why, but it seems to be a pattern in my history with Glinda, but I get sick at the worst times possible, literally the worst. And I missed my opening night of Glinda when I first started. So for me, my first performance, I was trying to get back as quickly as I could. So I was full of the cold, completely dosed up on cold and flu medicine, and it was a bit of a whirlwind. But I'd done the role quite a bit beforehand, before I did it. So I think for me, I've always counted kind of my first Glinda performance as the time when I went on for the first time in Brisbane. I don't think I've ever shook so much in my life. I was like, oh my god,
you were
I'm going to be...
you're in the bubble.
Exactly. I was like, oh my god, I'm going to be that girl that drops the wand. Like, I'm going to be that one. But it was exciting. It's such an adrenaline rush. It's such an amazing role. And over the years, every opening night and every kind of big performance has felt just as exciting as that very first one. So.
And you also got to perform for Stephen Schwartz a couple of times.
Yes.
And he has said that you might be his favourite. How did you feel performing in front of him? Like, were you really nervous?
The first time I was really nervous because he decided to come. We'd had about a year off between 2 seasons of the show, and he came on our first preview. So like the first time we had done the show in a long time in a new venue. We were in New Zealand and he was there for the first show. But it was great because the excitement of having that first audience and having him there, the show was just so sparky and energetic, and it gave us so much to play with, which is really nice. So that was the first time, and then times after that, of course, I've been nervous having him in, but he's become a friend, and it feels a lot easier.
So you kind of stayed with that since 2015, then you moved over here, back to London to kind of live out your West End dream. How did you feel moving back to the UK after touring around like the world?
It's always been something I wanted to do. I was actually looking back through some emails yesterday trying to find something, and I came across a bunch of emails in 2012 to my agent saying I have to at some point move to London. It's it's my dream, blah blah blah. So the fact that I actually did it is really great, and I have come home. I've come back to the UK, and as a result, I'm closer to my grandparents and my aunties and uncles and cousins. And so there's also, even though I'm kind of here doing the West End thing, which is absolutely what I moved for, there's the added bonus of being really close to my family and being able to pop up and down whenever I want.
And did you ever think you would be stepping back into the bubble again?
No.
After doing it for such a long time.
No, look, to be honest, I didn't. It was one of those things where I put that out there, and I was like, oh my god, how amazing would it be if especially for the 10th anniversary, was to be able to make my West End debut as Glinda, because she means so much to me, and has been such a huge part of my career. So when it actually happened, I'll never forget the day I got the news. I was at the gym, and I'd kind of been waiting to hear for a while, and my phone rang, and I had a series of almost getting things, but just missing out to one person for like the month leading up to it. And my phone rang. It was my agent, and I'm mid squat. My phone rang, and I was like, do I answer it? Am I ready for this bad news or what? I'll just answer it. I was like, hello. My agent's like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm just at the gym. He's like, can you sit down? I was like, why? And he goes, how do you feel about choking on bubbles for a year? And I was like, no way. I burst into tears. The poor woman next to me who was doing the workout was like, are you okay? So but I bawled and screamed and did all of that stuff because it was just, it meant such a lot. So.
And you were in the 10th anniversary, which is just incredible to be part of anyway. And you were lucky to be with two Elphabas, Rachel Tucker and Winona Mike. How did the two differ in terms of performing with them?
Their height was very different. I was actually used to working with a taller Elphaba back home in Australia, so to start with I was like, ooh, somebody of my own height, this is weird. And then I forgot what it was like, and then when Will came over, I was like, well, hello, back to that again. But the girls are completely different personality-wise and also performance-wise, and I love that so much because it means you get to try different things and work out a different way of doing the show with them, and it keeps it fresh. But both of them veterans of the role and incredible Elphabas. I could not believe how lucky I was to be able to work with both of them. So,
what is it about Glinda that makes you want to go back? And what is it about the character that you're just kind of drawn to?
I think along the way, I've learnt a lot about myself in the show, as much as Glinda learns a lot about herself in the journey of the show. And I think that is something that I love playing. I love playing the arc that she has, you know, seeing the hurt that she has at the beginning, having lost her friend, going back in time and seeing how she grows and develops as a human, and then, you know, how she deals with that in the second act and matures and all that sort of stuff. And I think as an arc, it's an incredible role to play. And every time I've gone back, I found something different, and that's exciting. And then, I mean, that is the thing. Every time I've gone back to Wicked, I've gone back in a different, usually in a different way. You know, here she was English, and that added a whole new dynamic to the character, and something I had to kind of rediscover for Glinda. So yeah.
And do you find it harder to speak in an English accent than you did in an American accent? Because around the world, everywhere is American.
Yeah.
And then here it's just in British accent.
To start with, it was a bit of an adjustment. Like, I pretty much sounded like Mary Poppins for the first 2 weeks. And they were like, okay, we're going to have to do something about this. And I think over time, it actually crept into my speaking. The English accents crept into my daily life. All of a sudden, my brother's on the phone like, sorry, what? And I'm like, oh my God, I can't help it. But yeah, to be honest, as an Australian, we very rarely do things, unless it's an Aussie piece, we very rarely do things in our own accent. So we're kind of used to slipping into an American accent or an English accent or something like that. So it wasn't a huge adjustment either way. But I think now that I've done it in English, it would be an adjustment to take her back to American. Yeah.
Do you have like a favourite moment with Glinda's, or like a favourite scene or line that she says?
I love Thank Goodness. I really, really love that scene. I think when she finally goes, the character goes deeper, and you can see that hurt and the suppressed emotion, and I really do love doing that. But then I loved playing with the girls, with the Elfies as well. Like, every single one of them in Popular would give me something different, and that's when we can muck about with each other. And yeah, it's very hard to pinpoint it to one part. Because at the same time, you know, a lot of the times in the hug at the end of For Good, especially with Rachel, I mean, the two of us were talking to each other in the hug. It's the only time we'll have spoken to each other the whole show, really. And so there are fun moments throughout one short day. You get to kind of have a bit of a play about. And so I don't know, there's so many.
And do the audiences change depending on where you go?
Absolutely, yeah.
Like, is there a big difference between like Australia or anywhere you've been to England?
I think audiences worldwide have attach themselves to the show in the same way. I mean, it is loved by everybody, has the same amount of fans. It is absolutely a show that a lot of people can identify with, but we thought that Korea would be, we had a media night in Singapore for the Korean audiences, and it was the quietest I've ever performed, and we were like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a crazy kind of 6 months in Korea, in Seoul. And when we got there, I don't think there's been an audience as vocal as the South Koreans. And we were doing it in English, and they were reading it in Korean subtitles, and they went mental. And then we went to the Philippines, to Manila, and then they took it to a whole nother level again. And I think culturally, things land in different ways. Like, there is a lot of the humour in the UK is very different to the humour that we would have had in Australia with an American accent. I think that definitely differs. Aussies are very kind of laid back, and oh yeah, that was wonderful, where, you know, the Brits are on their feet at the end, and that's a really nice feeling as well. So yeah, it's subtle differences, but definitely differences throughout the world.
And would you want to do it on Broadway? Like, do you feel like you just need to kind of complete that full circle now?
Look, it would be incredible, but it's also one of those things that
you feel content if it doesn't happen, but if it did happen, you would want to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So stepping away from Wicked, you finished a couple of months ago now, and then you performed at Willow concert alongside Savannah Stevenson. How was that to kind of sing?
It was really fun. It was really,
something
really fun.
different.
Yeah, I mean, it took me a whole week to learn. I was like, oh my god, I'm learning everything I know to a different tune.
It was crazy.
It was crazy.
Fits so well.
It was really, really fun, and I love those two girls so much. So it was really nice to spend time with just the three of us. And really work on something that was challenging like that, but something that we all know so well at the same time. So yeah, that was really cool.
And it looked like you were just really good friends. Like, it was like a powerhouse trio that just kind of were supporting each other, which was lovely as an audience kind of member. And now you're doing your own show at Zedell, November 5th. How do you feel about that?
really good, actually. It's a massive kind of step out of my comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much doing my own show, but doing it in London.
Yeah.
Like, it's like a whole extra layer of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really excited about it. It's all coming together really, really well. I've got a great musical director, Benjamin Holder, who is fab. And yeah, it's exciting. It's really exciting. Looking forward to it.
Do you get like more nervous performing in like an intimate crowd as opposed to being on stage in
Yeah,
front
it
of
is
those?
very different. I mean, we're used to looking out to a vast space of black. Like,
Yeah.
you might see the front row or the second row, but apart from that, it's just, you know, a cavern of black. So to be in a space where I am going to be able to see everybody and everything is quite nerve-wracking. But at the same time, I think it's a home crowd. There's a lot of really lovely people that are coming, and
Yeah.
lots of friends and family. And one of the wonderful things about it is 2 and a bit years ago, I moved here, and all I had was a suitcase and me. That was it. I didn't know anybody. And so to be selling a concert in London
Yeah,
on just my
that's
own
great.
name is really cool.
And what can people expect from the set list? Is it going to be just like musical theatre numbers, or are you going to add some things that people won't expect you to add in?
There's definitely things people won't expect me to add in. Of course, there's a few musical theatre numbers. I took on board some suggestions from Twitter, so you'll be happy to hear that. There's some musical theatre, there's a couple of pop numbers. I think there's an opera number. So there's a few
vast
things, a vast
variety.
array, yeah.
And finally, is there a role that you are like desperate to play, something away from Wicked, like something else that you've always wanted to do?
At the moment, I'm a little bit in love with Anastasia,
So
which
if people
better
are
hurry up and get in
watching,
before I get too old.
or maybe you could write your own music in the future. Is that something that you'd be interested in doing?
When I was in year 10, I definitely wrote a song and tried to sell a single to my friends. But it wasn't very good, and nothing I've really written since then has been any good either. So look, I doubt songwriting will be part of my repertoire, but I'd love to do more concerts and
You
stuff.
always have that one song.
I will. I mean, top notch.
We had a lot of fan questions sent in via Facebook and Twitter, so I'm going to read a couple of those now. Let's see what the people have to say. Somebody said, what role would you like to play but can't because of gender, race, etc.? So it's like a male part you've always wanted to do, but just can't.
I mean, I'm too young, also I'm a girl, but that's the point of the question. I would love to do Jean Valjean in Les Mis. I just think, Les Mis is my dream show, and I've definitely missed the boat on that one, unfortunately. But I love it. I love it so much. Yeah.
The operatic head voice for your character is perfect quality. I'm assuming this person means Glinda, but you have that. That is you were trained classically, right?
Yeah. So when I dropped out of uni, actual proper uni, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to sing, but I didn't know whether I wanted to do musical theatre or opera, classical singing. So I did a course in both at the same time. So I have had like a year and a bit of proper classical training.
The second part of like kind of question, it says, does this style come naturally to you, which it does, and has it limited your choice in roles that you can play?
I think everybody has their niche for roles that they can play. That's kind of one of the exciting things that I'm looking forward to doing with the concert, is that I'm showing off things that people probably don't know that I can do, which is exciting. But it's kind of, I couldn't do Elphaba. So I've got that soprano stuff, and I've got a kind of light mixed belty sound in the middle, but when it comes to doing what like Rachel Tucker, aka the biggest freak ever, does with her voice, there's no way I can do that. That's kind of my trade-off for having those top notes, is, not being able to do that stuff in the middle. So yeah, I mean, she's amazing.
And lastly, what advice would you give your younger self?
Couple of things. One's going to be very deep, and one's going to be very superficial. The superficial one is when I was 9. So I used to do dancing classes and all that kind of stuff. And I said to Mum at the ripe old age of 9 that it was getting too much for me, and I wanted to play with my friends instead. And so I gave up dance classes so that I could play with my friends. I would tell my younger self to stop being an idiot, suck it up, and do dance class, because you're going to need it in the future. And secondly, I was bullied a lot at school. This is the deep one. But once you come out the other end and you find where you belong and the people that, you know, the theatre world is incredible. But, you know, once you find your people, none of that means anything. And that life will be okay post-school.
There you go. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Leave that on that deep
note. You can come to Suzie's show on November 5th, 9:15 at Zadell. I will leave a link in the description box. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.